Hey, friend. You all right? You still with us? Yeah, that TQ should stop the bleeding. You took a pretty hard lick back there. Edmondson and Williams are dead. It looks like the other trucks made it through. Can you walk? Good. That's one less loose end. Shit. It sounds like they're hitting Siegel's truck now. We gotta get him to the extraction point before media committee bags him. Let's move.
Good evening and welcome back to the State of Recruit. I am your host, DJ Jazzy Jess. My co-host Siegel is a little indisposed this week, so I am joined by last season's State of Recruit host and probably one of the greatest CSC casters of all time, Crash. Crash, thanks for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Those are pretty bold words. I wouldn't say I'm up there with the best. I think there's a lot of people better than me. Working every day to get better for you guys. But yeah, it's always super, super good to be back. Obviously, I was involved with the creation of this project not too long ago. And yeah, it just feels really, really good to be back on the blue screen with you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you, Crash. We have definitely had an interesting week in CSC. We had a 5-round OT. Our only undefeated team in Recruit took home their first L. We had some close games and some not so close games, but before we get into that, we'll go over our FA signings and trades for the week. All right, so let's get it started tonight with Sav making their cut of Drano. It looks like there was a little bit of an issue with some team chemistry, but Drano had just kind of volunteered to be the one to leave. There wasn't really any bad blood between the org and Drano. It wasn't performance based or anything like that. It just somebody had to go and he decided to be the one. He volunteered as tribute. And it looks like to replace him, they signed the FA Chenzo, who has subbed for a few teams so far this season with a solid .95 rating. It looks like it could have been a little bit better, but they had a tough game one night with FRG. But from my understanding, it sounds like they had lost a family member and their dog Dory that day. So we will have a little bit of a moment of silence here for Dory. All right, so next it looks like we have the HEL trade with Nan. HEL traded away I Am Arch for a third-round recruit pick for next season from Nan. Nan had to cut Bun due to some scheduling conflicts. He wasn't able to make some of the games, and therefore this trade kind of came in for a good spot for Nan. I know that Arch is a dedicated opper, and he's definitely looking forward to open with Nan this season to see where they can take us. Hopefully, it'll be a good pickup for them. So to replace Arch, it looks like Hell signed Cool Guy. He was definitely a pretty good pickup for them. I know that if they were having some issues with chemistry, Cool Guy is definitely a good one to pick up for them. And finally, we will have our last one, which looks like Thugs had cut AOS Arctic. They were definitely a solid player. Being a DE this season, they seem to be getting better with each match, but it looks like the roles that HG needed and what they fulfilled, it just didn't really fit in, which we know definitely happens sometimes. So they then picked up Sav's cut of Drano, who is an Auber, so hopefully that will kind of fit in their role a little bit better and see where they can go this season with these changes. So let's get things started tonight with our Abyss Walkers and Upsetty Spaghetti game. Going into an OT game here. Spaghetti's winning it 16-14. Definitely a close game. Could have been anybody's game, as it looks like they both kind of got 5 rounds on T side each. So it really could have leaned either way at any point in time. It just kind of looks like Spaghetti's was a little bit more together. They have 4 players there with over a 1.0 rating, so they were definitely able to frag and get the kills that they needed to get. They all had good util damage. Naze with 22 flashes, Omen with 19, Mick with 16. I mean, they just blind. Although
Hmm.
Notorious 23, Covey 16. I mean, those flash them right back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was just a solid game to watch, solid game to play through. It was definitely a nail biter all the way to the end. Lots of clutches as well from both sides. Deity actually had two 1vx's in this game, so yeah, ABW threw everything they had at UPS, but UPS had just that little bit extra to get them across the
Mm-hmm.
line.
Looks that way. All right, so next we have our UPS versus ACA game on Nuke. UPS won that one 13-5, so a bit of a struggle there for ACA. They might need to, look into Santa. They made some roster changes, so they might need to see what's driving and what's going on and see where they can kind of pick it up. Next, it looks like we have our ATL HCL game on Ancient. ATL winning this one 13-11. So close game there. Two really good teams. Both have some really sharp shooters. So definitely expected that one to be a close one. Next, we have our AVI Mist game on Ancient. Mist winning that one 13-8. So definitely, I can't see the stats there, but I do assume that it was a good game with some sharpshooters and some good stats. Next, we have our Nade Stack Cal game on Mirage. Nan winning that one 13-11. I know both teams had a sub deck game, so it was a little bit of an even playing field, being able to, each team have that person that might not really know their strats or know how they're playing, and it was still a really close game with that. So next we have our DBAP game on Ancient. AP winning that one 13-8. Again, I can't pull the stats up, so I'm assuming that it was again a good game with some good stats. Next we have our Sav DRG game on Inferno. DRG winning that one 13-6. I definitely think that will be a good hit for DRG's mental. A lot of people kind of have overlooked them in the past, so being able to take somebody down like Sav is definitely good for them. So next is not a featured matchup, but definitely going to touch on this a little bit longer. We have our FRG-HG game with 5 overtime rounds. HG won that 28-6. So the stat line for this is a little wild with 48, 45, 40 kills. It's a lot going on, but that's almost 2 full round games of CS2. So it definitely would be hard as a team to be able to keep playing that. You get so far into a game and you're like, just get me off this map. I'm done playing. So to be able to stay in it and keep fighting, it's impressive from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the mental strength to stay in a game like this, right? 'Cause speaking from the perspective of someone who's played back in Counter-Strike Global Offensive through games that were just as long and longer than this. Once both teams hit 25 plus, that's when it really starts weighing on you. Like, oh my God, we're going to be here for the rest of eternity, right? And for them to really really hang in there and not quit on their team is such a huge mental achievement, and all 10 of
Mm-hmm.
these guys should be absolutely proud of the way they played in this game.
100%.
Love to see that kind of Counter Strike. Moving on to match day number 5, we have Hellfire versus ABW. 13-6, another rough loss for Hellfire. ABW looked really really solid. Covey especially, he had a really really solid game. So yeah, big up those guys. 13-7 was the score for the Battle of the Pond, as Mist are going to get even with Tadpole Titans and make the record overall since season 11. 4-4. These teams have been playing each other ever since they both came into the organization of Counter-Strike Confederation. And yeah, their rivalry's always been super stiff. Both teams have always brought their A game, and we got to see it again here today. Ruby Rags and Toast, they've been in this game a long time. They've been in this league a long time. They know how each other coaches their teams. They know how each other are going to play, and it absolutely showed in this game with both of those guys at the top of their respective scoreboards. Ruby Rex has had a stellar season, but let's not sleep on Lociel, right? He came in last season as their AWPer from AVI, and he's really made a name for himself in this roster. Lociel's looking to be a franchise player for WET this season and possibly future seasons. So definitely don't overlook him. He's been a super solid player.
Definitely, I would agree. I mean, 1.42 and a 1.47 ratings for what? That's it's a good game for them. They should definitely be proud of that one.
Absolutely. And moving on, we got another Anubis game. It's going to be DRG versus OS. OS winning this one in quick and painless fashion, 13-3. Not a lot to say about this game. It didn't really go on for a whole lot of time. That one was over pretty quick. Yeah, not much to say. Spence, absolutely murking the competition. He is definitely the hottest free agent going into next season because right now he's PFA. But next season, when that FA gets put next to his name, you can bet your ass every single team in the league is going to be moving to sign that guy because he has been absolutely insane so far this season. Moving on, we have a 13-5 win for Cal. They've been really struggling these past couple of match days with taking tough losses, but they finally take an outstanding victory in very dominating fashion against the best team in the league. I think this says a lot about Cal, and this says a lot about what they're bringing to the table this season. I think this might be the season we finally see them in the playoffs. It's looking really, really good for them. I have nothing but high hopes for this team. Moving on to AP versus Nan, and AP getting knocked down a peg by Nan. I mean, big game from you guys, right? 13-8. This has obviously been a pretty hyped up match going into this match day. So big game right there. Well played from both sides. Sapphire 23-15 and losing. I mean, wow. AP threw everything they had at this game, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't quite enough to get it across the line. Nan was more together. Nan was more united. And as a result, Nan did win the game. Counter-Strike is not a game where you can have one guy kill the whole team in most cases, right? So I think that game is a perfect example of that right there. Moving on, speaking of one man killing the entire game, UPS beating AVI pretty bad, 13-4 on Inferno, and Goal Line Core had an absolute nuclear game, getting 7+ more kills than his next teammate Omen. 21-10, 119 ADR. Dude just had an insane game. He was almost unstoppable. It's Sick was also pretty good for AVI. 16-15 in a game where you lose 13-4 is pretty good. He also had 7 assists, 98 ADR. Both of those guys played super solid, but again, yeah, Goal Line Core's supporting cast just was really putting him in a position to make plays, and I think that's very obvious from the scoreboard. ACA versus Deadbeats. Deadbeats beating them 13-3. ACA's really got to get their stuff together, man. They really got to find out what's wrong with that roster. They really got to start grinding. They really need to be grinding over this past weekend, and we're going to see come Tuesday if that's going to have any kind of positive impact on the team. And if not, I think we're going to see some more heads start to roll at ACA. So some dangerous implications from the scoreboard right here. Moving on to our last game from match day number 5. HG versus Sav, 13-11. Again, a very close victory, but a victory nonetheless. I remember talking to UK Cats last season. And he's like, hey, we're just going to beat everybody and move on, right? And that motto, that motive, that motif has been really questioned, right? These past couple of weeks when it comes to Sav, they've been looking a little shaky. The cracks in the invincibility have been beginning to show. And even though they didn't win this one by much, I think them just coming back mentally from the kind of the shaky spot that they were in with the pieces that they had and they were able to win definitely says enough about them still being in it, right? The giant still has not fallen. And I think we're absolutely going to see them still being able to fight for a title this season. Moving on to standings, we actually had quite a decent shakeup as opposed to last week. We've got Goshi in the number 1 spot. That's Order of the Samurai. The record being 4-1. ATL 4-1. What Do You Beef making their way to the 3rd spot at 3-2. And then ABW at number 4. They're also at 3-2. UPS at number 5, 3-2. Nan at number 6, 3-2. DB at number 7, 2-2. And then obviously you've got number 8. We've got Wet. That'll be 2-2 as well. HG at number 9. They'll be 2-3. And then Olms, they will be, or excuse me, DRG. They'll be at 2-3 in the number 10 spot. The number 11 spot will be AP at 2-2. The number 12 spot will be Hellfire Union at 2-3. And then the number 13 spot will be Sav at 2-3. And AVI will be at the number 14 spot at 2-2. FRG will be at the 15 spot at 2-3. And ACA will be bringing up the rear at 0-5. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that the standings aren't exactly 100% accurate due to a lot of the games not being registered within CSC's system. Obviously, some of these games are played on independent servers due to server difficulties from the provided servers by CSC.
Boop, 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 boop. All right, Crash, you'll start it off.
Man, this season is really starting to ramp up. With these roster changes and teams starting to get their chemistry together, these 2 match days are going to be a really, really, really big contest to prove which of the teams belong at the top and which teams are going to be battling for those last few playoff spots.
I couldn't agree more with you, Crash, but I feel like with that being said, it's time to wrap up our show. So with that, I am DJ Jazzy Jess.
And I am Crash.
Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to tune in next week for episode 4. See you later, guys.